I don't particularly think that Los Angeles has a home field advantage. For some teams, yeah, and a home field advantage playing at home is worth 3 points in the NFL. We know that. I think it's overrated when it comes to the Chargers. We're going to see plenty of Dallas fans in attendance tonight because Dallas is a bandwagon team because the Chargers don't have a good home field. And I do think this is a good Cowboys team. The narrative right now is Dak isn't any good. Dak throws a lot of picks, and he does. But also, if he's going to have success, Chelsa, it's going to be against a defense that is worst in the NFL against the pass. If you're a decent quarterback, you should be able to have success against the Chargers.
Well, also built into the line here, and if you're wondering why is this line so short, the Chargers are coming off a bye week. But do we think that Brandon Staley is going to work up some tricks in his bye week? I think for a good head coach, this is when you really like to back him coming off a bye week. And I will say the Chargers are getting a little healthier despite Mike Williams on the IR. Joey Bosa, I believe, practiced a little bit yesterday. And who else came off the injury report? Justin Herbert was on the injury report for a little bit. And also Austin Ekeler. So a huge boost to this offense getting Austin Ekeler back. So it is a team that's had some time to prepare and some time to get healthy. I do think that is built into the number a little bit, why the spread is so short. I do think the Cowboys are probably the better team. But when we're talking about these two head coaches, I don't think I really want to trust either of these teams if it does, in fact, come down to the final minutes of this game. Do you want to trust Brandon Staley? Answer's no. Do you want to trust Mike McCarthy? Answer is no for me. So I don't think there's a side that I like in this game. And this total seems way too high. So let's go to the props world and see if we can find some value there. Because usually if you have a total this high, it means it's going to be a good game for props where both of these offenses kind of have opportunities to shine. So for me, you look at the injury report, Mike Williams on the injured reserve. Which receiver is going to take up his targets? For me, it's probably going to be all about Keenan Allen. He has had some monster games this year, had 215 yards against the Vikings, had 111 yards against the Titans. Granted, those are two very bad pass defenses. So maybe he doesn't put up those type of numbers. His number's 83.5 though tonight. I think he is going to be the go-to guy for Justin Herbert. Or if you want to go the tight end route, because that has been the kryptonite for the Cowboys, at least against the 49ers. If you remember, George Kittle had that shirt that said the not so nice things about the Cowboys on it. And he torched him, had 3 touchdowns in that game. And the tight ends have been the leading receivers for the opposing team against the Cowboys in 3 of 5 games this year. George Kittle, Hunter Henry, and Darren Waller all were leading receivers for their team. So maybe you focus your attention on Gerald Everett. He's been kind of hit or miss this year, but still, I believe his number is 25 yards here or 2.5 receptions. So maybe that is a play as well.
The Lions have now won 4 straight. They're 5-1. It's their fastest start since 2011, and they hold the Bucs to just 251 yards of total offense. Detroit just keeps plugging along.
Do you think Jared Goff deserves to be in the MVP conversation? I have not thought of this thought until just now. He's been putting up some big numbers. The Lions are good. Does he deserve to be up there?
Yes. No question. Look, they're 5-1. I think Jared Goff, we always talk about narratives on this show. What works against Jared Goff is when you think about Jared Goff, or at least I know some people do, they think about the Jared Goff that was in LA. This is a completely different quarterback. They won last week without Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was back in the lineup this week. If the Lions keep winning, and they should, not just because they're good, but because they play in a weaker division, why not? He's been fantastic. Time to throw out that old narrative. The man can play. I like the Rangers as well. I'm going to go full game for the Rangers at even money. And Eovaldi, I'm telling you, man, I faded him a couple times. At the end of the regular season, I was so confident in that play because he was banged up for a while. And when he came back, he wasn't quite the same pitcher. But, man, he used that playoff experience and has been awesome in the postseason. 2 runs over 13 2/3 innings in 2 outings. So, every time I'm tempted to fade him, you know how that goes. You fade somebody or you fade a team that keep burning you. You have to get away from that. But ultimately for me, and I like your first 5 play because of this, Framber Valdez, while he was brilliant against the Rangers if you're looking at particular splits a couple years ago. But this past year, he has not been good against Texas, an ERA of 4.32. And also, I know he has only one start in the postseason. That was against the Twins. He gave up 5 runs in 4 1/3. So I'm just going to back Eovaldi and how he's looked and fade Valdez. So I'm with you. I'd take Texas first 5 or Texas full game money line at even money. That is my play. Do you have an opinion on a side here? I feel like, unlike most series, if there is an over series of the 2 series we have, or sorry, yes, a total here, if you're like an over, I feel like of the 2 series remaining, this is where maybe you look at the over of the 2 at least.
Yeah, even though I don't think this is necessarily the game to do it, I think I'll wait till we get into maybe the number 3 starter for the Rangers, because the sabotage factor here is that Nathan Eovaldi has been really good. But both of these lineups have extreme power potential. Like, look at the Astros. We talked about Adolis Garcia, the lineup that the Rangers have. If you remember the All-Star game, half the lineup was Texas Rangers. But look at the Astros. They've got all-stars all down the lineup as well who are fully capable of hitting home runs. Jose Abreu has been hot this postseason. Yordan Alvarez has been hot this postseason. So I think that is your potential there. When you have those big hitters in the lineups, if you can get some runners on base, and again, the dimensions of Minute Maid Park are pretty short, there is a potential for a lot of runs being scored in this game. But I think maybe the later games in this series are the time to do it. So I don't want to really fade Nathan Eovaldi here. So maybe in game 3 is when I will start taking overs in this series.
Who is your Monday MVP?
I am going with Jordan Montgomery of the Rangers. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say it's Michael Penix. It's Michael Penix. Michael Penix was awesome. There is no question about that. But we knew this is going to be a score fest. I hope he wins the Heisman Trophy. I love his story. But I think you need to understand the situation that Jordan Montgomery has been put in. Number one, this is the American League Championship Series, okay? This is going up against the Astros, who have just been in this spot again and again and again. And Jordan Montgomery wasn't supposed to be in this spot. Jordan Montgomery was supposed to be behind Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. So here he is in game 1 against the Texas Rangers, who have been absolutely smoking the baseball. And not only that, he outduels Justin Verlander. I mean, my Lord, the pressure upon this guy who comes in, wasn't even supposed to be in this position, in this spot, to perform the way, not only that he performs in this game, but how he has performed throughout the regular season, or at the end of the regular season, getting them to this point. Jordan Montgomery, Rangers.
I think there's a lot of good candidates here, because I think we also need to do a little hat tip to the Jets. Their defense, putting them in place to beat 2 really good teams this year, in the Bills and now the Eagles. But I'm going to give my MVP to the guy that's probably going to win the Heisman now. Michael Penix Jr. certainly had his Heisman moment in the biggest game of the year for Washington. Usually I'd say, okay, the ALCS is the bigger moment here. But looking at the schedule, is this not the turning point game for Washington? This was a top 10 matchup against Oregon. Usually, or before the season, you would have said, okay, well, they've got USC coming up. I think this is going to be the harder game, going against Oregon, as opposed to what we have seen from USC thus far. So this game not only had Heisman implications, also had college football playoff implications. This kept Washington alive for that conversation. So I think this was probably the biggest game of the year. And after the game, you could see it all over Michael Penix Jr.'s face. He was crying, tears streaming down his face as he was talking with the reporter after the game. And what a moment it was for him. It wasn't just the stats that he put up, but some of the throws that Michael Penix Jr. lofted down the field. It felt like you were watching a top-tier NFL quarterback here. And that's saying a lot. There's not many. So I feel like a combination of being at his best when the pressure was on for a season for the team's hopes to remain alive for the college football playoff, and also just the highlight reel plays that he put on film for this game. So it was a Heisman moment for Michael Penix Jr. and also his MVP moment for me. Michael Penix Jr. of Washington, MVP of this Monday for me.